I'll figure it out. And that's that. Like, nothing I haven't happened to me before. Got a game on Friday. Best thing about the NBA, get a chance to kind of go back to the drawing board, look at how you can be effective, at least from the scoring side of it, and make adjustments and figure out ways to be able to, just make a shot. That's it.
Yeah, you're definitely not happy, and adjustments need to be made. Here's time for some quick takes. Russ shooting 2 for 14 from the field in a loss to the Kings. So, Jay, what is up with Westbrook?
He's been 0-15 over his last 6 games from the three-point line. And think about this, Charlie. There's an average of 8.3 feet of space that defenders are keeping away from him when he's on the three-point line. What does that mean? They're stacking the paint, waiting for him to either drive or waiting for LeBron James to drive. This is a major problem for the Lakers.
And so need to mix up those shots. Okay, Monica, your turn. RJ Barrett going off for the Knicks, snapping Dallas' 6-game win streak last night. How important is Barrett to the Knicks' success?
Hugely important, Charlie. And I just want to say, I really liked those shades that Russ had on in the presser. But RJ Barrett has had 3 30-point games in the last 5 games for this New York Knicks squad. Folks don't know, but before he got hit with COVID protocol, he was starting to find his rhythm. He was shooting the ball better from the outside. But what is key to RJ's game is that he's aggressive and attacks the paint. He has a great knack for finishing through contact, and then that opens up everything else for him.
Yeah, and Monica, he actually is the youngest player in Knicks history with consecutive 30-point games, so that's pretty cool. Okay, next one, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown combining for 67 points in a win over the Pacers. So, Jay, is this a sign of optimism for the Celtics?
Anybody out there saying, hey, we should break these two up, like, what are you talking about? You have 2 wing prolific scorers. Now, the question is, will Jaylen Brown be able to acquiesce to a degree to Jason Tatum, or should he? Would I rather have 2 dynamic wing scorers and find pieces that can fit around these 2 than actually ask the question about whether we should split them up? So, yes, there is optimism between 2 of the youngest, best potential scorers in the league.
And lots of optimism coming phenomenal. First offense is a warning. Second, $1,000 fine. Third, $2,000 fine. Fourth offense, $5,000, and really that goes to infinity. So $5,000 would be the max there. So, Jay, would the Nets paying fines for Kyrie be a bad look, or you think it's cool?
I mean, I'm not going to say it's cool, but like what I am going to say is that one of the things Woj said, Monica, towards the back end of that is that the Nets may not have a stomach for it now. Operative word, now.
Yeah.
Where are we now? We are in January. We have not even hit an all-star break yet. But if we get past that point, and nothing still has changed, it might be something they could consider. I think they should consider it. And here's what I'm really going to say to a lot of people out there, because I see things all over social media. Well, you're breaking the rules. You're breaking the laws that are in place. Okay, well, there's a fine system that's set up. So I ask, people say, well, New York's all about health and safety protocol. All right, so you get a slap on the wrist for your first time violating that? That's really trying to do everything for the health and safety of people around, or you get a $1,000 fine for the second time, Monica. That's really trying to help people with health and safety. This is about money too, right? And it's something that's put in place to help businesses that all fight for it. Let's not try to act like, hey, we're really trying to, if they really want to stop it, you know what? We're going to ask you to get out of business, but they're never going to do that because the billions of dollars that the Nets organization and other Fortune 500, 100 companies bring to the city of New York. So it is feasible to think that way. And the last point, Monica, I have is I still find it outrageous that unvaccinated players, if you're asking about those fines, unvaccinated players can come to Brooklyn and play in their arena. And you're not as worried about the health and safety protocol of players and fans, but you are with the players that just live here. And I think that's BS.
Well, Jay, we know cash rules everything around us, so there's that. I don't necessarily think that visiting players being able to play is BS, because the idea behind this is that residents, people that do their daily existence in the city of New York, would comply with the vaccination status. Here's where I am. I'm almost indifferent. If Joe Tsai decided this is where I hold the line, I'm not willing to pay an additional fee for my player that doesn't want to be vaccinated, I would understand that. However, if he decided, to your point, we have gotten to the playoffs and whatever the playoff number is, I am going to pay that because of the ability of this group to reach out and touch, literally, a championship in the NBA. I understand that as well. I think as we proceed through this thing, again, the area I do have to give Kyrie his credit is he has never attempted to mislead us. And if he proceeds with whatever the deemed protocol will be for an unvaccinated player, then I'm not sure that we have much to say. And the reality of it is, while I think this is a powerful moment in terms of the Brooklyn Nets holding the line, which I have said on this show a number of times, the reality is that our sports figures, sports organizations are not necessarily the end-all be-all when it comes to the moral conscious, or I don't know if you want to use the word moral when it comes to the vaccination, the belief in science or not in our society. And so we're going to keep watching this. I think we know how talented Kyrie is, and this team is scary with him. They're not bad at all without him. And this is just going to continue to evolve. I do think that ultimately winning will trump all, so it doesn't surprise me if it goes this way, that he will be able to play and they'll just pay the fine.
But Monica, I want to go back to what you said originally about how you didn't think it was BS. So the places in which all the protocols are in place, right, in order for an unvaccinated player to come into Brooklyn and play, those will be the same protocols that you will use for Kyrie on a consistent basis. So that's where I get. So you're saying it's safe for unvaccinated players to come in and play because they're abiding by the protocols that the NBA has in place to keep players safe. But you're saying those same protocols that you could not establish at home to keep players safe wouldn't count? It's not going to give you the same safety? That's where it's confusing to hear how certain cities, especially for programs or businesses like the league who have all these protocols in place for safety, can't understand that.
Well, I think the nuance, though, Jay, is like this isn't an NBA thing. This is a New York thing. You
I understand. Me? Yeah. It's a Chicago thing. It's
so,
an LA thing, but it's not the majority of states.
Right. No, and listen, I agree with you. And you look at cities like New York and LA. Well, I agree with you in terms of it being slightly confusing. But you look at cities like New York and LA or the Bay Area that wanted to be leaders, I guess, in mandating vaccinations in terms of big business. This stuff gets in the weeds, Jay, and you and I both have now had COVID and dealt with it. I am not, and I the word indifferent is probably not the best word, but I understand the layers in this conversation. I do not take issue with the mandates in New York. And if Josiah, again, decides, all right, here we are, I'm going to pay the fine, as long as Kyrie is proceeding under those protocols that we just talked about, here we are.
Politics as
usual. I mean, personally, we all have friends and family that are not necessarily vaxxed, and we're dealing with that too. So this is just an extension of that.
Yeah. Well, look, the Nets already bent once. Who's to say that they more than likely won't bend twice? Okay, so from New York to Boston, Monica, last block, Jay said he doesn't think the Celtics should break up their young duo of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. So do you agree with this?
So it's not that Jay just said he doesn't think that should be broken up. Jay said, I don't know what these people are talking about. And that's where you lost me a little bit, because I'm with you, Jay, in that they are both talented. However, it is glaring that this Celtics organization is stuck in the mud. And yes, a win is a win, and getting both of those guys on the same page with big-time numbers are great, but this is an Indiana Pacers squad who admittedly was trying to blow it up. So I don't want to get carried away with that victory. I don't know that it is time, but to be considering that, Jay, I think we're there.
Why do you think we're there?
Because this Celtics team has higher expectations, and they have egregiously not met them in the past 2 seasons. And I think when I look at both of their games, and you said it yourself, will Jaylen Brown be willing to acquiesce? Their games are so similar. They're not guys, to me, who play exceptionally well off of the ball in terms of creating a two-man game between the two of them. They both want the basketball in their hands, and rightfully so. They're both very, very talented. There just doesn't seem to be a rhythm and flow to what the Celtics are doing consistently.
I mean, before they got hurt, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George seem like they can exist. You're talking about two wings who want the ball, two superstars who can learn how to play together. All I'm going to say, and I'm not comparing those two to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. I'm using that as an analogy to explain, right? But all I'm saying is this organization has had a lot of upper management things that they've done. Obviously, Brad Stevens just going into the position of being a general manager. Ime Udoka now is the new head coach. There's been a lot of moving parts about, and all I would say is it's hard to find two stars that have the potential that these two do. I don't start by saying, hey, these two guys are the problem. Can they coexist? I start by saying, how can I build the right pieces around these two? Because these two could be the cornerstone of my franchise for the next 10 to 15 years.
So, and to that end, Jay, I think the solution, more importantly, would be a strong leader point guard that will put everybody in their right place. That, if you ask me how to fix it, that's the formula.
You get the ball when I tell you get the ball because I have championship experience and I've been here. I understand how to be an extension of my coach on the floor.
Well, hopefully
I
last
wouldn't
night,
even,
the beginning
I
of a
wouldn't
good
even
stretch for
necessarily need the
Celtics.
championship experience.
Yeah.
I would say a guy like Jalen Brunson is a guy that